The information shared in these conversations and videos are intended for general knowledge and entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered as legal advice or professional guidance. Additionally, any documentation or references to specific content are solely for the purpose of discussion and understanding. It does not imply endorsement, promotion, or support of said content. The views expressed in these videos and/or conversation are those of the individuals involved and do not represent any official stance or opinion. The content you are about to experience may contain strong language, including explicit words and phrases. This language is used for artistic expression and may be integral to the storyline or character development. It is important to note that the use of such language does not endorse or promote offensive behavior. Viewer discretion is advised, and please enjoy the show responsibly. Disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. The Canadian Copyright Act, Section 29, allows an individual to use copyright-protected materials when creating a new work, such as a mashup, and to post the new work online on a site like YouTube. Fair dealing provision for specific purposes like research, private study, education, parody, satire, criticism, review, and news reporting.
Where are you coming from with this, just kind of in a general sense?
Yeah, so like my stance on it, right, is that like abortion is murder. And like when I say that, I mean like it ought to be defined as legally because it's an unjustified thing of a human life. And then I would define a human life as a Homo sapien organism containing DNA from both mother and father human beings.
Okay. I probably should have written that down, but I can write down notes later just because, I want to track everything and just kind of dissect them. So I've never done a formalized, I actually do very few formalized debates. I just kind of like go off the cuff and I just talk about, mostly science related things and all that. But I'm a pro-choice person. I don't take that to the extreme. I think you probably heard me say this. I think it would be wrong for a person to say something like, or to do, or whatever, or just to say like, I have sex with the goal of getting pregnant with the goal of having a. I think that would be wrong, right? I also think that I also think that you shouldn't be able to go to Planned Parenthood 38 weeks in and there are absolutely no complications and say, you know what, I changed my mind. And the majority of people who are pro-choice, agree with those types of stances. I don't agree. Now, I think that would be wrong. The second thing I just described, I don't know about but I think it would be wrong. And again, I don't like sit around thinking about this particular kind of thing in terms of like getting definitions and stuff like that squared away or whatever. But I figured we could just like go down the line on things and figure out if there's like anything we can, or like exactly what we disagree with.
Yeah.
So
well, like I had watched the one video you have of you going over some pro-choice and pro-life arguments, and like I wrote down one of the things you said was like
the Trent Horn thing, or no, it wasn't Trent. No, yeah, it was Trent Horn, and that other guy, I don't even know who he was.
Yeah, you were watching a debate for a little bit, and then you kind of just talked about it a little more with some people that came up, and one of the things you mentioned there was that like. One of the reasons you're okay with it being within the first trimester is because the fetus doesn't have a capacity to suffer. Did I understand that right?
That's part of it. Yeah.
Oh, so that's only part of it. Okay. So I didn't get the other part, because if this is the case, I would ask you if like, so there's something called congenital insensitivity to pain, right? So that's some humans.
Yeah, SEPA. Yep.
Yeah, right. So like some humans, they have this genetic mutation where the sensory neurons don't develop for the pain, so they don't have the ability to perceive pain. So I would ask, like, is it okay for us to take them out?
I would say no. And the reason is there's sort of a few layers of things that make that case different. There's a reason there's discretion here. One is part of the thing for the first trimester is I think it's permissible because the fetus is incapable of suffering at that point, which is part of it. But the more important part, and this is actually the main thing, is what's different in these two cases is if we the person that has SEPA or whatever that condition is, do they suffer? No. But what right do you have to take their life away? Now, you're probably thinking, well, this is raising alarm bells because that's what an abortion is.
Right.
But it's a different case because I think the main crux and really the only argument I think or at least the most effective argument, at least for me, for the pro-choice side, is nobody has the right to use another person's body, even a fetus. And so that's what makes it complicated, because it's like, well, you don't have the right to life if it requires compromising the health of another individual person, is the biggest difference. Because in the SEPA, the person that can't feel pain, it's just utterly pointless. It stands in causal relationship to nothing at all except to end their life. Whereas that's not what an really is.
So what I would say about this though is that, like, so in the case of, because like you said, like when it like is a risk to the health of the person, right? So like say that somebody had a case that made them chronic physical pain and they couldn't take care of someone else physically, and then someone dropped off a baby on their doorstep. Would they have the right to just kill that baby?
They don't have the right to kill it. And this is a weird sort of, I've heard, I think it was Matt Dillahunty, somebody proposed this to him once, and he said something like, no, I would call the cops, and whatever happens at that point isn't my problem. And like everybody started applauding. I was like, Jesus Christ. So I mean, on the one hand, it's not your responsibility. So it's kind of this thing where I think it's morally.
Well, even in the case of calling the cops, I would have answered him and said, well, was it your responsibility? Like, can you just do nothing? Can you just leave it there to die? And that's okay.
So I don't really, I don't exactly see what the logical argument that you are obligated to go out of the way for. It's kind of this weird thing where I don't think you could really present anything where it logically follows that you have that duty. But I still think it would be wrong. I think it would be like emotionally wrong not to, whatever the hell that means. But I don't know. You
think it'd be morally wrong?
A stranger cannot be charged with neglect. I don't think so. In a case, it would have to be the weirdest of weird circumstances. I mean, like, do you think if a stranger is walking down the road and somebody walks up to somebody and like hits them in the head with a baseball bat, and they're like their scalp cracks open and they're just bleeding profusely, and that person just decides to just keep walking, and not because they thought they were in danger from the baseball bat person, like, I don't know, picture that person just themselves right after they do that. Like, do you think if that person doesn't engage in a good Samaritan activity right then and there, do you think that they should be punished? I think the legal system should do that.
So, okay, so I might need you to repeat it again so I can understand the situation exactly correctly.
Sure. I tried to tell a story and that made it complicated. But let's say, do you think that if somebody's walking down the road and they see somebody suffering and they just say, oh, damn, but they keep walking, do you think that person, if it was found out, they should go to jail for that?
Well, yeah, that we actually do have, I forget actually what it's called, but you actually do have a duty to report, something like that.
Sometimes,
even like in the case that you talked about with the, like a child being abandoned on your doorstep, you would actually face legal consequences if you did nothing. But like the reason I asked you the question was like because right now obviously abortion is legal, and my argument is the fact of that it's morally wrong to be doing this and why it should be illegal, right? So I understand even like with legalities, there's going to be some things where we can say, well, it's legal, so what? So but like I'm explaining how like why like if we just made it legal to take out black people, would that be like, would you consider, well, since it's legal, it's morally right to do so?
Yeah, no, I don't think what's legal is what is morally right. You know, these examples that we're talking about, they're cool, they're interesting. I don't think they really necessarily translate all that well to what we're talking about. So I want to present, I think you heard the hypothetical I brought up, because is an unjustified killing. I think a lot of times people just say murder is the taking of an innocent life. Now, I don't think that actually works. So the hypothetical I gave was you're rock climbing and you're tethered to somebody. and something happens to them, like they start having a seizure or something like that. And so they can't hold on to anything, but they're tethered to you. And in this case, you just know that if you don't cut the rope, you're going to die too. It's going to end up pulling you off the mountain. So I think it's morally permissible to cut that rope to save your life. So do you agree with that?
So I would say this is okay, and I'll tell you why. So if you cut that rope and the person who falls lives, this would be looked at as a success. But in the case of an abortion, if you had an abortion and the kid lived, that would be an unsuccessful abortion. So the problem here is the intent. It's kind of like I've seen people bring up the violinist argument, and that argument in itself it falls, right? Because again, if you detach the violinist and they lived, that would be successful. But in the case of an abortion, the main intent is to take the life of the child.
I would say that that's true.
This is Sparta!
I want to go back to the example because it's a hypothetical, but we're adding hypotheticals to the hypothetical. And like, I'm not trying to gotcha on anything here, but like, we're just saying that we just know that they're going to, like, you're climbing El Capitan in Yosemite. It's like 3,000 feet tall. You just know that they are going to. But I do think that that's not murder, even though you knowingly took an innocent life. And I'm pretty sure you agree on that, right?
In the case of the rock climber you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I wouldn't consider that, because the main intent was not to kill the person, it was to save your own life. That's why in the case of abortion, I'm against all forms of abortion, only with the exception of to save the mother's life, obviously. And this is so rare.
Okay. Yeah, and like you hold the exception, so that's fine. I do want to talk about like how you can. I was actually thinking about it today, and I forgot to write it down, so I'll try to remember the argument I went through, like the no exception for whatever. The typical argument is, well, two wrongs don't make a right. You know, I gotta try to think about what I came up with for that a little bit more before we get into it, but we're still in this thing here. So in the rock climbing case, we have an example of taking an innocent life. That's what happened, but it's not murder. Now, I think what we have to do is try to figure out, why is it that in every case, terminating a fetus is an unjustified taking of a life? So, because cutting the rope stands in causal relationship to something else. It's to try to preserve your life and your well-being. Now we can just take let's just take a early
1 second. I don't just when you say you also accept it for your well-being, right? So like if someone's yelling and that my well-being is I don't want to hear this person no more, you wouldn't justify me killing them, right?
No, because you have other options.
Well, yeah, so
you can leave, for example.
Don't you see that in the same case as a pregnancy? You have other options?
Well, no, you either are pregnant or not.
Yeah, but your other option is that you take. So like when you say that it'll be your well-being, what do you mean by that? And maybe I should ask that.
Well, I think we're getting right into that. What was my intent?
Okay.
So let's take an example, because I don't think, like I said, the extreme late term, I think for convenience sake, that's not permissible. For the danger of the mother's life, we both agree that that's permissible. So let's take an early example, like 8 weeks or something like that. Do you agree that it's healthier for a woman to be not pregnant than to be pregnant?
Healthier? Is it healthier?
Being pregnant carries with it health risks.
Being pregnant carries health. Sure, there's definitely health risks, just like there's health risks with walking to work, right?
Sure. So in this world where we ban abortion, what we would be doing is saying, no matter what, even if it was involuntary or forced upon the woman, we are forcing you to have to live in a state where your health is compromised. Are you aware of any single example where, as a society, we allow for that?
Yeah, definitely. So in the case of the pandemic recently, there was they were saying that it was really bad, and if you caught it, your risk of was really high, but instead of just taking these people out when they caught it, we were forced to live in society with them. So yeah, we don't just take people out because there's a risk by other people of them getting sick or something like this.
Fatality.
I don't really see how that's a good example, but I don't think it's the same thing, because nobody has, like, there's a risk. There is always a risk for any kind of, in this case, we're talking about infectious disease. There's always the risk for that, but it's an unknown risk. You can statistically sort of predict it, but it's completely unknown. In the case of pregnancy, we just know for a fact you either are pregnant or you are not pregnant. And we're imagining a hypothetical,
but not
where
every pregnancy carries risks, and with the advancements of technology today,
that's
we
just not
actually
true,
have
though.
like a huge advance to stay healthy while pregnant.
That's true. Not every pregnancy is the same. They don't always carry the same health risks, but to say that not every pregnancy does carry health risks, that's just not true.
Yeah, well, like if someone's kid got like sick and it was like super contagious, you wouldn't say like, yeah, they can take this kid out now because it's a health risk to them, right?
Yeah, but don't you think that it would be wrong to capitulate to the parents saying, no, I don't care that my kid has, measles. They're going to go to public school. That would be wrong for the parent to try to insist that they have that right, don't you think? Because that would be putting other people in danger. Like, you don't have to kill them, but you can't force that on other people.
Well, in the case of the measles and the kids being sent to school, they can just be like barred from going to the school, right? That's where, but
Yes.
I was talking about strictly within the parent to the kid, right? Because like that's the argument, is that like because the pregnancy is a health risk to the parent,
Yes.
like the mom, it warrants, it justifies the killing of the kid. But I would say, well, we wouldn't do that if the kid was 2 and they caught some contagious disease, right?
Yes, but that's because, as I said earlier, there are options. You essentially have to either be pregnant. Now, again, we're dealing with a specific example of 8 weeks. We're not dealing with ending the pregnancy at 30 weeks, and there's a very good survival chance, and the child can go up for adoption.
So you're against the late term completely, right?
No, because of things like the health risk to the, not entirely, because of things like the health risk to the mother and possibly some other examples.
Okay, when you're saying so maybe this is where I got to figure this out then. What do you mean when you say health risk? Because I'm
if it's late term and there's absolutely no reason why that child can't otherwise live, then I see no requirement for an abortion procedure in that case. If for some medically anomalous reason, I can't imagine one, but let's say it's like 30 weeks or something like that, and they just somehow know, like, we have to terminate the pregnancy. We can't incubate the child for whatever reason. I can't imagine an example where that would happen. But the alternative is, well, no, you have to carry out this pregnancy, even though it carries a significant risk of death for you or something like that. Then no, I think that would be permissible, and forcing the continuation of the pregnancy, I don't think would be justified in that case. But we both agree in exceptions for the life of the mother, even in late term. So what's the distinction we're going for here?
Well, so when you say even in late term, I'm struggling to think of a case of where in late term it's a risk to the mother's life, so much so that we have to kill the child instead of her giving birth.
It has happened. There was a woman, I think it was in Texas. She died. She bled out because they couldn't give an abortion. Something happened. There was something wrong with the child, and I don't know what it was. What can happen is the child and the mother somehow can get separated inside the womb. There can be like a placental detachment or something. And what happens is the child can be in a state of imminent death. It's just known. But I think this is what happened in this case, something similar to this. The child was in a known state of imminent death, but they were so afraid of the new abortion laws that the doctor said, well, we can't, the child technically is still alive in you, and we can't do anything about it right now. So they had to wait. But in that time, there was some sort of sepsis or something that happened, and the woman died. And I just think that that's wrong. So there are odd examples that probably have names that I can't pronounce, that I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay,
but they have happened.
I don't know this example, but even if I granted with this example, like, so this is in the case though of like the mother will die otherwise, right?
Yeah, so like I just pulled up a quick headline here. A
But
woman
if it's
named
not that case, just real quick, with the late term,
Yeah.
if it's not that case, right, like where the mother's going to die, you don't think it should be allowed, because like
No,
right now
and
in
I
nine
think-
different
I think
states
as a
you
s-
can abort a child at any stage.
Yeah, but that's those legislations exist in order to make it so that the case we were talking about doesn't happen. Because even in those states, like
I don't know about
it was several years ago, but New York, they legalized all the way through, and people are like, oh my god, this is the most horrible thing. And people act like what that does is give you the permission, or whatever we want to call it, the legal right or whatever, to just for no reason at all, just at 38 weeks, just say, I just want to, and they have to do it. That is not the case anywhere.
Well,
it's that it
It
can
is
be
though.
done.
There's been several different people who've done like the call-ins on live streams and showed you that like they can literally just say that they're not going to be able to take care of it, and they think it was a bad idea, and they were left alone, and they can't go through with it. And the lady on the other side, yeah, no problem.
Like people calling Planned Parenthood and
Yeah,
stuff
in
like
these
that.
states like Oregon, Minnesota, New Mexico, Michigan, New Jersey, Vermont, Maryland, all these places, they're allowed to do this.
I have never heard of that before. I don't know where you're getting this from. I mean, I'm on the Planned Parenthood website. Let's see. You can get an in-clinic abortion until 24 weeks or later in some cases. If you're under, no, that's just for if you're a minor. This doesn't really say too much. I've never heard of that. But like I said, I don't think that that's right. And as a society, what we'd have to do is have a robust sort of, I guess you could call, some people call it a safety net, some people call it a welfare state, whatever, to try to afford these children a life to live, basically, even though it would be separated from their parent.
Yeah, so okay, so you wouldn't, in those cases, then you don't think we should allow just like someone that's 8 months and they want to be like, oh, I just don't want this anymore. We shouldn't allow abortion. We should essentially force them to give birth.
Yeah, I guess in a way, or what you
So you would be
would
in that case, though, you would be for forcing her to do something that is apparently a health risk to her.
No, they could choose to deliver the child early, I suppose.
Right, that's what I mean. Like if you were to force her to deliver the child, you're for, instead of having the abortion.
No. If it's at the point of viability and she says, I no longer wish to be pregnant, then I think what could happen is she could set up to have like a cesarean section or induce labor earlier than the natural point. I mean, quite a lot of births are planned nowadays.
So
they
the
induce
C-section,
early.
you wouldn't consider that like a health risk?
Well, it's being how do you want to call it? It's being what the hell is the word? What the hell is wrong with me? It's being consented to in this case.
Well,
so that's categorically different.
Not if like the only choice is that, right? You're saying like if she's 8 months pregnant and she doesn't want the kid anymore, you're saying no, we won't kill the kid. We're gonna make you have the kid, either induce the pregnancy or C-section, right? And that's means you would be for forcing her to do something that is a health risk.
But
why not just go a step further and say no abortions?
So
Because I think when I watched your video earlier, and I'm hearing you talk, I think you do have like a sense that it's morally wrong to be doing this, right? Like it's morally wrong to be ending children's lives, right?
No, certainly not in the first trimester, and I don't have a problem with doing it for any reason.
Okay,
We're using this edge case,
why within the first trimester?
Because nobody has the right to use another person's body.
So it's about the rights of I guess you would say it's about the rights of the mother superseding the rights of the child.
Yeah, in a sense. So like earlier I asked you to give me an example where society makes somebody have to live in a state of health risk, and I don't think we actually came up with any.
Yeah, definitely. So in the case of the pandemic recently, there was they were saying that it was really bad, and if you caught it, your risk of dying was really high. But instead of just taking these people out when they caught it, we were forced to live in society with them. So yeah, we don't just take people out because there's a risk by other people of them getting sick or something like this.
That's a good example, but I don't think it's the same thing. Not really.
Well, I thought the scene was
case,
a good one, but another one I could give you is like the draft, right?
Yeah, that is probably the best example, but I don't necessarily think that the draft is okay. I don't think I'm against the death penalty too. I don't think the government has the right to decide who gets to live and who gets to die.
But the women that are getting pregnant do?
They're not. So it's different. This is not the same thing as
I'm against
shooting
the
a
death
random
penalty too, by the way. But yeah,
cool.
like I think it's kind of contradicting if you're saying the government shouldn't decide who gets to live or die, but these women should.
Because that's really not what's going on here. This is not the equivalent of walking down the sidewalk and shooting somebody. It's really not the equivalent of you know what squatters are?
Mm-hmm.
It's not the equivalent of that either. What's happening is, and without making it too complicated, it comes back to nobody has the right to use another person's body. And if I don't want to get into the weeds with a hypothetical that we currently can't do yet. Maybe we could talk about it later. But what I would like to ask is, can you think of any example other than pregnancy in your mind where somebody has the right to use another person's body?
Well, that's why I said the draft, right?
I mean, in the weird sort of sense, the government is using your body.
I'll also give you another really good example. In the case of the woman having the child, but the man wants nothing to do with it, he's got to use his body for the next 18 years to financially support that child legally. So that's another force of someone using their body or being forced to use their body for someone else.
You can literally choose not to, though.
No, you can't. You can't just sign off your rights. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works. The woman has to okay that. If you're the father of the child, you have to pay support. You can't just not do that.
Oh, you're talking about? But yeah, you can.
No, you can't.
Go to jail. Oh. Yeah, you can, and you go to jail.
So
and then the government feeds. And then the government feeds.
But wait,
and then the government feeds
what you're
houses
saying.
You and gives
like,
you free health care for the rest of your life.
Right, I'm forced into jail. My body is forced against for someone else, the child. So
yeah, but you have the option not to.
But then they still force my body into prison. That's still using my body, right?
I don't really see how. I don't see how you going to prison is your body being used by somebody else or even for somebody else. I don't see how this is analogous.
Because it's for the child, right? I have to work to pay for the child, or I go to prison.
Yeah,
or
you can choose not to. Yeah,
right. Just like women can choose not to have sex, right? Like this is what you're doing right now.
Women don't choose to be raped, and you don't believe in an exception for that either.
Well, no, because in the case of this, right, I wouldn't think it was okay for like someone that's a mother of two twins that are 4 years old. I wouldn't think if she was raped that she should be able to go home and end her child's life because of that. Or better yet, I don't think she should be able to go over to the rapist's house and kill his kids that he has. So I don't think this is a really good argument, right? Saying that like rape is a justification to kill the child.
What's the justification that the mother has to have her body used by the fetus? What I guess, why does the fetus have the right to use the mother's body?
Well, so the fetus is a baby, and that is a human being at their most vulnerable state that has no other choice but to be where it is, and it's doing exactly what it was meant to do. And I don't think we should end the life for something that is no fault of its own.
But what right does it have? It's not that rock climber's fault that they had a seizure, but
like you're talking about rights, like legally,
we're agreed that it doesn't have the right to risk the life of the other person, so that life can justifiably be taken. And in this case, there just isn't another option, and that's the dichotomy of it is kind of what makes
in the rock climber thing. Again, that's like a self-defense case. That's not the same. Like your intention isn't.
Yeah, a pregnancy would be self-defense.
No, it wouldn't, because your intention is.
No, you're more healthy. No, you're more healthy not being pregnant. Yeah, but you're more healthy being not pregnant than pregnant.
Well, that's not always the case, actually.
Yes, it is. There's not a single example.
What are you defining by health then? What do you mean by health?
Health can't be defined.
Well, then, like, it's kind of a weird argument to use.
I mean, no, not really, because there's these concepts called like a homeostatic cluster, which is something that stands in relation to other things, but can't be reduced to anything in particular. And health is that. It's like, for example, shooting yourself in the foot, we would both agree is unhealthy. Taking vitamins is healthy, but we can't say that the definition of healthy is taking multivitamins, because it's just simply far too complex. There are too many ways to skin that cat. So it's a cluster of things. And it just simply is never more healthy to be pregnant than not pregnant.
So again, I don't think this is actually always the case, that it's more healthy to be pregnant than not pregnant, right? I'm not...
I think you got that backwards, but I want to make sure we're not misunderstanding.
You're saying to be pregnant is more unhealthy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's always the case.
That's just not true.
Well, yeah, I would actually be able to argue that, like, not allowing the pregnancy to go through its natural process and ripping out body pieces would actually be unhealthy, way more unhealthy compared to going through the pregnancy. So, like, and you just admitted that, like, well, we can't really define.
You're saying that an abortion procedure is more unhealthy than being pregnant?
Yeah, our bodies were biologically made to, like, for women, they were biologically made to be pregnant and give birth. They weren't biologically created to have shit ripped out of them. I don't know, like, if you know how that process goes, but, like, a lot of the times there's other things that tear open, rip. They cut things they're not supposed to. That's not like a clean process that everybody goes through, and it's just willy-nilly.
Yes, I know, but
very unhealthy.
The fact that even if there had been 10 billion abortions done in history and only one person ever died from it, we could say that it, like, you could make the argument. You could say, oh, well, sometimes blank happens. So that would be so ridiculous. And the death rate from legal abortions is around 0.4 to 0.7 deaths per 100,000, whereas the rate from pregnancy is 22.3 per 100,000. So pregnancy is vastly, vastly more dangerous than getting one of these procedures. It would be 22.3 divided by 0.4, well over 55 times. Well, we have to establish what we're talking about. Well over 55 times less. So I don't see how you can tell somebody there's option A, option B.
Well, in the case of the
This is an important point. I can't think of a single case where we ever tell people, look, there's two options, option A and option B. We know option A is way over 50 times safer, but you're just not allowed to do that one.
See, when you say safer, I just don't agree with your. But
we have the statistics for the death rate.
So your statistics for the death rate, where is this from? Is it just in the United States?
Yes.
And
I wouldn't do global because there are a lot of developing places in the world that have way more terrible health outcomes.
It was how much?
22.3 per 100,000.
And then For
abortions, it's
abortions
about 0.5
of the women dying, but
Yeah.
but it's 100% of the baby dying.
Well, it's not 100%.
Well,
But
yeah, it is. That's what an
the point is, the point is, there have been children that have survived it, and pro-life groups use them as mouthpieces for whatever it is they do. So, but let's kind of rewind. How is it not self-defense?
Yeah, because you're not in the face of imminent death. So like taking a life is not justified. That's not self-defense, right? That would be like saying a 2-year-old came up and punched you, and then you whipped him against the wall and killed him and said, yeah, that was self-defense. That doesn't actually make any sense. That's not self-defense.
I agree, and I don't think that, again, I don't agree with the super late term for no reason whatsoever. So I think we do have discretion here, and it's because of the added element of again, we're trying to go, but we kind of went away from it for a little while there. But like the 8-week, the random arbitrary example I gave, I think first trimester is the better place to hash this out, because that was what Roe v. Wade was all about anyways, was first
But like,
trimester.
if your case is self-defense, I just don't understand why you're just not all about late term abortion too, right? Like, it would be self-defense
because there are other options. You don't have to you don't have to throw a 2-year-old against the wall as hard as you can. But currently, technologically, at 8 weeks, you either are we'd have to do it from the perspective of the fetus, but you either are on life support attached to the mother or you're not. There just isn't another option. And I don't necessarily
Well,
think
yeah,
it's
there is another option.
good.
You could wait some time and then
Nobody has the right to use another person's body. We went over that too.
okay, but like if that's the threshold there, because like there is other options, you just don't like the other option because of the right to use someone else's body. Well, then you would.
Yeah, there's no logical. I haven't ever heard a logical argument for why somebody
But
else
like
has
this
the
would
right
be
to use
an
another person's
argument
body.
also for people to just get rid of their kids at any time, right? Like, we have to use our bodies to support our kids, right? Like, we literally can't just.
No, you don't have to. You can choose to go to jail and be housed and fed and clothed and get free healthcare for the rest of your life.
So if your two options are do it or go to jail, you just said we don't ever do that. It's only two options, you're saying.
Yeah, well, the kid could also. This is also a pretty wild false dichotomy. The kid could just be put up for adoption too.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's right. What could
so put
happen
them up
if
for
she
adoption.
doesn't want to have the child, she could go through the pregnancy, and
nobody has the right to use another person's body. It's always going to circle back to that. For, well, why don't you just wait a little bit longer? That will always be my response. So if you want to respond to that, you have to give me a reason for why somebody.
You're against child support. Like, a man shouldn't have to pay child support then if he doesn't want to.
I could see myself probably thinking there are cases both for and against. So like, but morally, well, yeah, here's the other thing that's going on that I wasn't paying attention to. We're conflating like morality and legality here. So morally, do I think that a parent should, like a dad should just be able to walk away? I don't know. I mean, it sounds not quite right, but legally, do I think you should be able to do that? I mean, I guess maybe. I don't know.
So
what's your stance on that?
No,
like, do you have any distinction between morality and legality?
Well, I believe that we should make our laws based off what's morally right, and that's why I said in the beginning, my stance is that when I say abortion is murder, I'm saying it ought to be considered legally murder as well, because it's an unjustified killing of another human being.
Right. Yeah, I'm happy to come back to that. But what's your position on like
child support?
A dad walking, a parent choosing not to be involved with the kid's life anymore. What's your legal and moral take on it?
Yeah, so like, yeah, he should be held responsible for this, and morally he should of course be involved.
Okay, so you think it's not morally good and it should be illegal, basically.
Right, like you should, I agree with how it is right now, where if a man walks away, he's held legally responsible to pay for the child support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's not the discussion that I'm really interested in having, but I'm trying to think of something here, but you can go ahead and say whatever you want.
Yeah, no, I was just I think even in the case of late term, you would be for forcing her to give birth.
No, she can get it. She can get a C-section or have the pregnancy
But why
induced.
can't she have an abortion? What if she wants an abortion?
Because there are other options.
Because there's other options earlier in the pregnancy as well.
Not unless you. No, there aren't, because the only other option
Well, not
is
instant
to
options,
force.
but not everything in life
Yeah.
could be given to you on a silver platter right away like that, right? I don't know what your argument of it being earlier means it's better. It doesn't make sense. And like again, if it's the right to use someone's body, you should have
What's
this
better? I don't know what you're talking about. What am I arguing is better if it happens earlier?
the abortion. What do you mean?
I don't know what that statement meant. What did I say would be better?
Oh, you're saying when you say that if they can get rid of it instantly instead of like going through with the pregnancy and then taking the baby out of them, it's better, right? Is that not what
you know what? Let's imagine a historical kind of example. Well, it actually still happens. And this is going to be a little bit like the rock climbing thing, but it's different. And then this leads me into a different hypothetical. There are hunter-gatherer tribes that still exist on our planet. There aren't a lot of them, but Papua New Guinea, it's a big island north of Australia. There are nomadic hunter-gatherer people that live there. They basically live in the Stone Age. There are some people there that have literally never seen anybody from the outside world. And some of them, anthropologists do go there to sort of study some of them. So they know about people from the outside world, but the only interaction they ever have is when people come to visit them. So these people, again, they're extremely low technologically. So they don't have a complex civilization. Now what they do is they have to move around. They can't stay in one place. They'll just die if that happens. Now there's something that happens from time to time. A woman will have twins. And in these societies, they engage in infanticide with one of the twins because over the course of the tens of thousands of years they've lived there, these societies have come to understand that the mother simply cannot care for twins and keep up with the group. It will almost inevitably lead to the death of 3 people, the mother and the 2 children, or both children. So they engage in infanticide. Now, I think that this is one of those things that the majority of people look at and they think that is horrible, but I understand. I think it's morally permissible, kind of like the cutting of the rope. So I just want to know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think it's morally permissible to kill children so that you can have a better life. That's crazy.
So in this example, I'm not sure if you actually heard me clearly. In this example, what happens is
they've made a determination and future telling of what's going to happen if they keep the twins instead of letting them birth. So
if they keep the twins,
I don't care about their future prediction because that's not reality, right?
If they keep the twins, they'll both die. So you think that what should happen?
They don't know that
they should keep. They've been living this way for tens of thousands of years, though, and you can say philosophically, problem of induction. We don't know the future.
No. Actually, if they've been living that way for thousands of years, that would mean they don't know anything else. So again, that's even more to my point. They don't know if they're actually going to die. They're just assuming this. Maybe it's some weird.
I don't think that that's a fair assessment.
Mayans used to sacrifice babies because they believed that rain was coming. Right, so I'm not going to believe some tribe is so they're so underdeveloped, but they know so well that they won't be able to care for these twins. That doesn't actually map out very well. It's not very.
I don't think that over the course of existing for tens of thousands of years and hundreds upon hundreds of generations going by, they know this.
We've existed for years and years with slavery. Does that mean we need slavery to exist?
No. And this isn't analogous.
It is analogous. It's just a tradition that we held on to for thousands and thousands of years. That doesn't mean it's not a tradition in the sense of this is something we believe in, like tailgating at football games or something like that. It's oh man, what was I gonna say? So you're saying you don't think they could develop their society to evolve to point like ours.
In the future, they may, but the way things exist currently. But the thing with your hypothetical is I could just say, hey, you don't know that the abortion's going to lead to death. Maybe God will miraculously save them. So then you can't say that abortion is wrong. Like,
Well,
we can't engage. That's too silly.
Wait a minute. I'm saying that we don't know that them keeping the twins will lead to them dying. That's not the same as saying we don't know if God will bring them
What
back
level? Okay, let's
as a fetus.
So we have to do this differently. Let's just say, for the sake of the argument, that they know if I keep both of them, they'll both die. If I choose to one of them, then the other one will live to become an adult too. Do you still think it would be wrong to end the life of one of them?
Even in this hypothetical, which is completely impossible, and even if I granted that they could somehow know, I wouldn't say it was justified, because it's not a justification to make someone else live longer to someone. That's not a justification. So, like, should we be able to take people out?
But you believe that a woman should take the risk of dying so that her baby should be able to live. So you do believe in that.
Wait, what?
You believe that the mother should take the risk of dying so that the fetus can live. So you do believe in that.
Wait, no, that's consistent. I'm saying both should get to live. What do you mean? That's consistent with my view.
But no, they don't both live. They both die.
At
the twins will both die
at a later time, right? And at some natural cause or something, not by
they're almost certainly going to starve to death,
but it's not the intent of another human killing them, right?
Yeah, but in this case, you know what's going to happen. Like, if I walk through that door, I know I'll be killed. But if I walk through that door, I know I won't be killed. Well, you have to walk through that first door anyways. That's not a great example. I just did that off the top of my head. But
yeah, all you're saying in both cases,
I don't care if this is your position. Like, I'm not making a judgment or anything. Nobody I've ever talked to has really argued against this. But you're saying even if we knew both twins would die, it would not be okay to kill one of them so that the other one can live.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
it's consistent with my stance of I don't think it's okay to take a life just for an unjustified killing of a human being. I don't think that's okay ever. Like, even like in this sense of like someone living like this would like be in that if logically if I was okay with killing that baby so that the other.
Why are you okay with the rock? Why are you okay with cutting the rope in the rock climber then? Because
you're saving yourself in that situation, and your intent is not to kill that person. That's not your intent.
It is. You know that they're gonna die.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do. We went over that. You're climbing El Capitan. You know that cutting that rope will kill them.
Again, that's not the intent of cutting the rope.
Yes, it is.
No, it's the intent of cutting the rope is killing them or saving yourself.
Be honest. The intent of engaging in the infanticide is to save one life. Instead, if we don't do it, both lives will be killed. It's the same thing as the rock climbing incident.
It's not.
Yes, it is. 2 deaths or 1 death.
No, because your intent is to kill one. No, in one your intent is to kill. This is the exact same thing. The other one your intent is to save yourself.
No, it's the exact same thing. The only difference is the baby isn't killing the other baby, but they're the exact same thing otherwise. 2 lives, both will inevitably die unless we take 1 life with the intent of saving the other life. They're the exact same thing.
No, because listen, what's going on the mountain, right, is completely out of your control. Where the situation you're talking
having
about
twins is out of your control.
No, it's not, right?
You can't choose to have twins.
No, I'm saying the killing of the twins, right? Like, you can live with twins, right? Just because they think
they can't in this case. They can't in this case. Both kids are going to die because the mother cannot keep up with the rest of the group. She cannot get enough food. They'll die of malnutrition.
Yeah. So again, this kind of makes this is kind of irrelevant because it's not.
It's so not though, because it's the same thing.
Yeah,
I haven't tied this into where I'm
not to save the mother's life. An elective abortion is not to save the mother's life, so that's not the same.
We're not talking about abortion right now. We're talking about the purposeful taking of a life in order to save another life. We're talking about the inevitability of 2 deaths.
Yeah, but like
my stance is that one of them can live.
Never okay. I'm against the death penalty.
Then you can't support the rock climbing incident.
I'm against the death penalty. Even I said No, I can support the rock climbing incident. What do you mean?
They're the exact same thing, though.
No, it's not. It's
It is.
not. Your intent is not to kill the person. Your intent is to save your own life. The intent
Yes, and
of
the
that
intent in the infanticide is
situation
to
you get-
save one of the twins' lives.
Yeah, but to
It's
kill
the
the
same
other
thing.
one. No, it's not, because
What do you think
you
happens
got
in the
two
rock climbing
intentions
incident? You
here.
kill the other
There's
one.
two intentions here, where with the rock climbing situation, there's only one.
Two intentions. What do you mean?
Yeah, your intention is to kill one to save the other. The intention of the rock climber is to save himself only. His intention
It's
is
to
not
kill one to save the other.
his intention isn't to kill the other. Just to save himself is the only intention. If that other rock climber fell and
The
lived, that would
intention
be
of the mother is
successful.
to save one of the children.
So if the other kid got
It's the
killed,
same
if
thing.
they killed the other kid but the kid lived somehow, that would be successful.
If they killed the kid,
How
but
would that work?
What?
If they thought
What?
they killed the kid but somehow the kid lived, would that be considered successful, or would they continue killing the kid?
I don't really. So like they smash its head with a rock and somehow it
Yeah,
lives.
it's still living.
Should they smash its head again?
Well, do they? I'm saying, like, or do they actually say, you know what, it lived, let's keep it?
No, I don't think they do that, because they know with as much certainty as they need to that they can't support twins. They'll both die, and the mother will likely die too.
Right. So that's my point. It's like when the mother does that, she's not saying, I hope this kid lives. When you cut the rock climber off, you're like, shit, I hope they live through that. You're not
went
you're
over
not
this
thinking,
in
I
that
hope that
hypothetical.
guy's
You
dead.
know they're going to die. You don't get to tell me what my hypothetical is. We went over this. You know the rock climber's going to die because you're on like a 3,000-foot ledge or something like that. But if we're just gonna, I already said this, but if we're just gonna insert the, well, maybe they'll live thing, then you can't poo-poo abortion because maybe it'll live.
That's not an abortion. That's the difference, right?
No, an abortion is a procedure with the intent to end a life. It's not the ending of a life. So
Wait,
like
what?
your God, why doesn't your God just quit lacking and save all these babies that are aborted? Your God can do that.
Well, so now you want to go into, if God real, why bad things happen? Like,
No, I don't want to.
That's not even the debate we're having. Right?
Anyways, we spent so much longer on the infanticide thing than I wanted to, and this was the general point I was going to make. The problem with the 8-week case we've been talking about is there are only two options from the mother's perspective and from the fetus's perspective. I either am pregnant or I'm not. And then from the fetus, I'm either on life support, requiring the use of somebody else's body, or I will perish. Now, for the people, the nomadic people that engage in infanticide, most people think that it's permissible, even though it's kind of in a way not good. But instead of producing 2 deaths, it produces 1 life. So they see the calculus there and they think it's justifiable. However, that's because they're in a state where they don't have other options because of the low technological state that they find themselves in or whatever. So I think this is not the world we live in. But like, for example, if we somehow could incubate like 8-week-old embryos or whatever, then kind of like the late term example with viability or whatever, then I would say that, yeah, that could be a case where we now live in a world where no ever has to take place, and that would be fine. We just don't happen to live in that world. So that was kind of the point. I mean, you disagreed with the first part of that, so we can't really, there's not really anything to dissect there, probably. Are you completely against the myth stone as well and plan? Well, we'll start with plan. Are you against plan?
Yeah, I would actually, if it was like my choice, I would actually take away like probably all forms of birth control besides like condoms and
IUDs.
I don't know how safe IUDs are, but because there's been some weird shit about that, but maybe that too. But other than that, no, because like it actually has like a really bad effect on the people taking this shit, especially like Plan B. This is something that like people don't realize what they're doing to their body when they put that shit in them. So like it's not only doing the thing they want it to do, it's doing a whole lot of other shit.
Abortion is ending of a this is the kind of a thing where it's like we're being nitpicky on the words. An abortion ends a pregnancy. Plan B doesn't end a pregnancy. It prevents a pregnancy from happening. But technically the egg is fertilized and it's gone through some cell divisions at that point. So you're against it because you think it's still a human life. So it's wrong to
wait with the plan B part.
Yeah.
No. The plan B, I said I would be against those things because of the negative health effects, like the huge health effects that it has on the women taking it.
Do you think a fertilized
it's actually like there's studies that show that taking too much of this can lead to cancers and everything. So yeah, I'd be against a lot of medications though, right? Like I don't think we should be giving kids all these ADHD medicines. We give them shit like this. Like I'd be against a lot of medicines because there's a lot of fucked up shit they're doing to us. But that's kind of like
that's a little weird because you're taking away consent, informed consent. But I don't want to get into that. Do you think a fertilized egg is a human?
Do I think a fertilized? Yeah, I said from conception is the from the sperm egg infusion all the way up to death is the human life.
Plan B makes it so that that human now will die, certainly. So I don't understand why you're not against plan B from that angle.
Well, I'm actually that's not the angle I go with these other arguments because I can attack it from a whole different angle with the medications.
But like I understand what you said, that I don't think women should take plan B because they don't understand the risks that it has, or even if they do understand the risks that it has, then it's still so unhealthy that they shouldn't do that. That doesn't make any sense unless you think alcohol and tobacco should also be illegal. If you do, then based. But actually, I don't want to debate it, but just yes, no. Do you think they should be?
Alcohol and tobacco?
Yeah.
Alcohol, I don't see the greatest arguments for it, but for tobacco, yeah, I would actually take the UK approach of like it's basically grandfathering it out. So anyone that's like, if we were to start it now, you can buy cigarettes at like 21. Say next year, you'd only be able to buy them at 22, and then it go up until nobody can buy them anymore. Nobody lives that long, and it basically make it so anyone who does smoke doesn't ever have to stop, but we'd take it out of society slowly. That's what I would do with tobacco.
That's a little weird because alcohol is far more destructive to society than tobacco is. It's odd. It's also, it just doesn't fit.
I think it's it's actually the people drinking the alcohol and how much they drink that's the negative effect, where with tobacco it doesn't matter, right? It's not about the amount, it's all bad. So like that's why where like with alcohol you could actually have it in moderation and it wouldn't actually be bad for you. There's actually ways it could be good for you in the cases of wine and stuff.
I don't agree with all that, but I don't want to have that discussion.
No.
I only have about 10 more minutes here, but
yeah, we can always talk about this stuff at another time.
Did you know that plan B prevents what is, in your view, a human being from, it completely disables them to be able to exist? I'm trying to find the way to, like, it prevents a pregnancy from happening, but we have a human being and you're ending that human being's life. Well, like, it doesn't directly kill them, but it makes it so they can't implant and they will die.
Yeah, that's why.
That's murder in your worldview. I don't see how it's not.
So my argument isn't about you shouldn't be able to prevent pregnancy. My argument is about you shouldn't be able to murder a child.
But how is this not murder? That's my question.
What do you mean, how is it not? No, I just said to you that like when it comes to the medications, there's a lot of other things I would add into it. That's why I attack this plan B argument at a different way, right?
But the problem is I'm not trying to get you to convince me, oh yeah, I agree, it would be unhealthy, so there shouldn't be plan B. I'm just asking you on your own terms because this sounds like a total contradiction. How is plan B not a child in your view?
I didn't say it's not.
Well, then that would be, I don't understand why not.
Like the IUD is in that case it's different, and then the condoms it's different as well. That's why like I'm okay with these ones.
Yeah, but plan B is not like that. Plan
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're talking about like the morning after pill, right? The one they take after when they probably are pregnant. Yeah, that's why I'd be against that.
Oh, you're not pregnant the morning after.
It
takes more time than that.
Well, like you know what I mean, like that they're preventing that from happening. So like that's why I would be against, because like in every case that's not happening though with plan B. That's why like I'm not here trying to argue plan B. I argue abortion, because in every case of abortion the baby.
But you have to be consistent. Plan B doesn't prevent conception. It lets conception happen, and then it makes it so that life, which according to you as a child, will be out.
Right, yeah,
it
that
can
like
only
killing
murder you.
the baby is the reason that Plan B, like that's the first reason he should be abolished. And like for people that want to say that it's not a baby, right? I have the arguments of how bad it is for you. The growing studies of how it leads to cancers if you take too much of it. The amount of people who have like menstrual changes because of it. The people who experience, almost everybody experiences vomiting and nausea after it. That must be something going on there if everyone's puking off of it. Like and then
I don't think that many people die from it.
Well, maybe they don't directly die instantly from it, but like I said, the facts that we have studies that it's leading to cancers if you take too much of this shit. I think that's a good reason.
I don't think anybody takes Plan B for like their mints or anything.
I don't know,
like
man.
that.
The way that this society has gone, these chicks think this shit is just like the answer, right? Like, these I can just take the morning after pill. Like it's I don't know.
I do have to go here, but I wonder if I just want to get your take on a couple of. Well, there's really only one thing I can think of, but
yeah,
for me, the fertilized egg thing, a lot of pro-choice people, they even when it's like, several weeks into the pregnancy, they say it's not a human, it's a tumor, stuff like that. I really hate that. I honestly do. I think that a fertilized egg is a human, but I don't think it's a person, and I don't think it has legal personhood. The legal personhood thing would stem from, well, do its rights supersede somebody else's, in this case the mother's? And I don't think so. But it's not a person, what the hell could that mean? Well, we do say that without even really thinking about it, we do use these terms totally differently. Nobody says how many humans are buried in Arlington Cemetery. They say how many bodies there are. And for me, like a fertilized egg, it's a human, like categorically, but I don't think it's a person, because I think a person is a human with a mind, and a zygote just doesn't have that. So I'm just curious as to what you think about that.
Well, no, I think if you saw a body, you'd say whose body is that, right? Like not like and when I talk,
you would
about
say who was that,
I would say how many people are in that cemetery. Like like I even have a joke that I say driving by a cemetery, people are just dying to get in there. Like.
But think about it. If you saw a body, you wouldn't really say, I mean, you might say it, but I think what we really mean is, we wouldn't mean who is that, we'd mean who was that. Because what's the identity of a corpse? That just doesn't make any sense.
No, yeah, so like, but they were a person. When you say legal personhood, maybe we'd have to do this another time, because like I'd really want to break down what you mean by legal personhood. Like, what gives them legal personhood?
Well, the Constitution, according to the Constitution, they don't have legal personhood, because the Constitution says they have to be born.
But we still charge someone for double homicide if they kill a pregnant woman and her baby dies too. So like that
does happen.
Yeah,
that does happen.
Like you wouldn't say like a dude that stabs a woman and only the baby dies, like she's a pregnant woman and only the baby dies. You wouldn't say, oh, we shouldn't give him murder. We should only give him assault and attempted murder.
I mean, honestly, I could see it happening. I don't know how it is adjudicated. And like, I don't have a problem with that, but it is still the fact that what the Constitution actually says is you have to be born. And if you want to change it, I mean, like, I guess go right ahead. But anyways, there's probably other things centered around that. Well, now I don't even remember what the hell I was going to say. Oh, like carry out a life insurance policy on it. If it's a person, then you should be able to, right? No. Now a life insurance company would absolutely never do that, because pregnancies end naturally too often, and they wouldn't be able to make any money, because that's all they care about is making money. They don't care about life at all, really. So yeah. What's your hot take? Should you be able to take out a life insurance policy on an embryo? Should you be able to put it on your your health insurance plan?
No, definitely.
Why not?
Definitely not.
Why not? If it's a person.
Yeah, so like the whole thing is
Why are you okay with the government allowing an insurance company to not recognize the personhood of an embryo?
it's hard for you to go get life insurance on someone else now.
But not impossible. And right now, the government endorses that insurance companies are allowed to hold the position that an unborn child is ineligible for life insurance or health insurance. Actually, any kind. You can't do it on your taxes either. You cannot claim you cannot claim when you're pregnant. You can't claim a dependent either. So the government really clearly has this view of it's a little bit schizophrenic. Like, in the murder case. I mean, my honest opinion on that is murderers are horrible people, and maybe we should incentivize doing everything we can to punish them as much as we can. I honestly think that's the actual rationale that they have, and also it is just absolutely horrendous and traumatizing when something like that happens, and there should be a punishment that reflects it. But no, I think it's just really pretty clear that the government doesn't actually think that somebody who isn't born has rights or the same rights. I guess we could say it one of those two ways.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say me not giving them access to life insurance would mean I'm saying that they're not people, right?
Well, I mean, you're not saying it, but the government is endorsing, and it's not even that they're not people, it's that they're saying they don't get the right to it. And like, you don't have the right to insurance, but you should have the right to be eligible for it. And according to them, you're not. And according to the government, they're okay with it. I don't know. And I think that's just a pragmatic. I'm not really sitting here arguing that it should be different. I think just from the pragmatic sense of it, and I think is a pragmatic issue. I think there's a morality issue to it as well, but like a pretty substantial one. But yeah. Anyways, we did an hour.
Right? You know how many women would like call in and lie and say they're pregnant? You know what I'm saying? Like, the mess it would take to actually confirm all these chicks are pregnant, bro. That'd be insane. You'd have everybody calling in saying, yeah, I'm pregnant, I need life insurance on this. I think that's why they can't.
I don't know. I don't think you can forfeit your worldview based on convenience, though. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, my worldview is it doesn't change whether I give them life insurance or not. That's not the point. My point is how much of a mess it would be for society if insurance companies were they already deal with fraud all the time. The amount of fraud that would go up.
Well, I already said my piece on it, but so just because we kind of got sidetracked, just like if you can quickly, because I gotta go here, but
yeah,
your take, like my whole thing I said about, well, a person is a human with a mind, and a zygote is missing one of those things, so it's a human, but it's not a person.
Okay, yeah. Well, I would consider all human and person, right? Like I value human life all the same, regardless of like mental deficiencies or abilities to perceive certain things. Human life is what I value.
So you just think that human and person just mean the same thing?
No, not that, because I do understand the difference when people are talking about human and person, but I value human life, and there would be things that I think you could attribute to a person that you could also attribute to a pig. And I don't think this is I don't care about pigs. I love bacon. I'm gonna eat bacon until I die.
I had bacon last night for dinner.
Yeah,
and this morning for breakfast. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, that was fine. And yeah, this isn't like my thing, but I do believe in it. And so, I want to engage in it so that I can have somebody tell me I'm wrong. So I can try to think of, okay, maybe that particular belief I have actually is a mess and doesn't make any sense. So how can I refine this?
Yeah, I was watching when you were saying and you kind of wanted to maybe start talking some like semi-political topics, and I was like, oh, let me see what he thinks about this then.
Yep. We'll see. Stay tuned, I guess.
I get into it.
I fuck up the mood. They feel it, I kill it, I'm really just spilling the juice out of my shoe. But fuck with the fam, the gunning is something I do. I don't need a crew. It's all on my own and I got something to prove. I'm on the loose.